It's not appropriate for me to start this off with the peace greeting for obvious reasons. Mr. Let Go really got under my skin with this one because I was able to hear it. He talked to the man that got stood up at that restaurant in his skit. I say in the skit because that's a comedian. I'm sure that was a skit. Mr. Let Go did not even consider that possibility as far as I know. But he started to tell the man the usual Western hyena bitch shaming language. Don't be sensitive. That's what girls do. Stop being a cornball. Get some bass in your voice. These are things that do help men, but we also have to understand that the reason why these things are seen as so effeminate, and yet there are men that still think that this is the way to win women over, is largely because of mixed messages. I myself am a goddamn monster. I am married to a good woman, and I have jumped on her and damn near bitten her head off about mixed messages she didn't even consciously send. It was just she forgot, and I got on her about that because I've been dealing with this so much when it comes down to the Western sisters that I was hypersensitive to it. And I was not going to tolerate it. I was not going to be patient with it. I was not going to consider the possibility of no harm meant, and none of that. Granted, she meant no harm, but I still just remembered. I remembered where I grew up and how I grew up. And what that meant when you're dealing with sisters. When you're dealing with the Wicked Witch of the West. When you're dealing with Sapphire and them. Mixed messages. Hurry up. Be quick. Timing's everything. Stop rushing. Hurry up and stop rushing. Those two right there, mixed messages. Be careful. Why don't you go ahead and act like a real nigga and just alpha your way through it? Those two are mixed messages. How you gonna be careful about something and then just alpha your way through it? Start chest thumping. And so that's what we were dealing with. And they knew this. They knew because they were the ones sending the mixed messages, and to them it was a big joke. Some of them still giggle about this today. I don't know what to tell young brothers except that, yeah, you don't want to seem corny, and this guy really did seem like a cornball, but in this day and time, you could tell that man was doing it intentionally. You could tell it was part of a skit. That's just understood. You know that. I'm just trying to find my person. Yeah, brothers know nowadays. That's definitely a skit. But the fact is that still sisters were telling us to do this stuff. And Mr. Let Go with no due respect, because none is due, damn you. Because you knew damn well that brothers were raised with these mixed messages. You also, I'm sure you could have told with any due diligence that this was a skit. So you just wanted to talk down on a man for the swag he didn't seem to have. Because you, at the end of the day, are an N199A. You were chock full of negativity. I know it's addictive, right? Just like that old white guy said in the video. I'm sure it is. But you're chock full of it. You can't get rid of it. To you, it's everything. It's normal. It's right. And what's the reason? Well, I don't know, and I don't really care why you find it to be normal and why you would go along with it. See, the thing is, at the end of the day, Mr. Let Go, sometimes you do hold women accountable for picking pookies. But when it comes down to this guy, you hold him accountable for not being a pookie, not being pookie enough. The fact is, Mr. Let Go, you of all people know mother cuss word well, that frankly, we're not in a game between men and women. It's not just a battle between the sexes. It's not just a gender conflict. It is a war. It is a Cold War. It is just like what went on between the United States and the Soviet Union. It was a Cold War. They fought via proxy. They didn't pull the weapons and aim them at each other. That was mutually assured destruction. But oh, they fought and they had allies and they had enemies. At the end of the day, they really didn't want to wipe each other out. And they didn't want to drag a bunch of other white folks into what they had going on. Neither one wanted racial extinction for themselves. That's the truth of the matter. But here we are today fighting something similar, and we didn't choose it. And you know, Mother cussed word well that it wasn't black men that started this war chose it. No way we would have. So when you tell this guy to do stuff like get some so-called real masculine friends and go see a black male therapist, most brothers ain't into therapy like that. You go and tell him to do this stuff, you are still catering to the atavistic mating tendencies of Western women, white and black alike. You're acting like what they want is valid. It's not valid. If they'd been honest about it from the beginning, maybe we could say it is. But when they lie to the extent that people really may not know, and to the extent that there are still guys out there like this comedian, though they're rare, there's still guys out there that don't know because they're young, because no one's told them any different yet. They're usually not as old as that comedian. The fact that they still exist, though, means that somebody's lying to them. And as I stated, even though a lot of brothers are now getting the wool ripped off from their eyes and the truth is being shown to them, the fact remains that these brothers are being lied to by even their own moms, let alone their more distant lady relatives. Their sisters won't tell them the truth. Grandmoms won't tell them. Steffes Cold said his mom and his aunt lied to him. Your day gonna come. Steffes Cold had to become someone other than whom they raised him to be in order to find better. And I'm not going to sit up and just allow sisters' hybristophilic and atavistic taste to just go validated and verified like they're okay. They're not, sir. They're savage. They're not savage because they're black. They're savage because they think that black folks are savage. And therefore, since they're black, they think they themselves are supposed to be savage. And that since we're the men, we're supposed to be even more savage, more stereotypical, more inwardish, more negative. And you just walk right into it. Now, I've heard about you, but I never stopped and listened to you. The fact remains that you make your money catering to their dysfunction. I must say I'm glad I did not ever have to go that route. I'm glad and I thank Allah and I even thank my ex-wife that did help me, my first ex, that did help me in some ways to become a teacher. I do thank her. So that I could do this, and whatever I do get is support from brothers, and I want to thank them from the bottom of my black heart and the depths of my black mind. Start with MLR again. When I get support, it's real. When I get support from them, it's true. So if you make $1 million from lying to these sisters, it just means that you had to lie to make $1 million. And if you're in an environment in which you have to do things like that in order to make that kind of bag, that means the environment is corrupt. The support is corrupt. That's what you were dealing with, sir. The environment is corrupt. And it wasn't the men that corrupted it. And now you want to sit up here and validate what they want, but would not tell you. And then when they do tell you, it's just a confession that they're atavistic. See, Average Man Unplugged played a clip of you talking. Shout out to the Average Man Unplugged. Average Man Unplugged, you on to something. But there's one thing that you didn't notice. I have, because I've had to notice it. I don't blame you because you're not one of those unselected men. So this is not something that would have been thrown in your face. In my case, I've been both selected and unselected, and so I had opportunity to see this. You were right that these Pookies that they pick are emotional like they are. They make decisions based on emotion. But these black women don't see that as being a masculine trait either. What they see as being a masculine trait is the lack of thought and the self-destructiveness into which they can easily be seduced or provoked. That is what they see as being masculine. Look at him. He threatens you. Somebody pulls a gun, someone dies, and if he's not the one that dies, then he goes to prison for life. That is what she likes. Now, what's the reason for that? It's not because she necessarily mistakes that for masculinity, because that means she can trick the man. Yeah, she'll see it as feminine if he's thinking too much and she can't trick him, but she'll see that as feminine. That's true, but that's because she's Western and she's hyper scrutinous, hypercritical. Notice that it is for black men that they've got these standards. Why it is that they like these Pookies is because these women want to be hoes and thoughts. And in order to do that, they like guys that are going to get themselves killed easily. And then it's on to the next. She gets to play the role of the grieving girlfriend, and on to the next. Gets another one that's likely to get himself killed. And then on to the next. Then she doesn't want them to get themselves killed anymore because, babies, child support. So she doesn't want to do that after a while. Then she tries to get someone that's not as likely to get themselves killed because then they can continue working and supporting. And if they're dumb enough or inexperienced enough, not really even dumb, just if they're deceived enough and therefore inexperienced enough, and they've been shut out of experiences with women for long enough, then they won't see the games. So when she's got her dingling on the side, then when she finds the right dingling, then she doesn't want him to get himself killed either because, dead men can't fornicate. Cadavers can't maintain erections. That's what it comes down to. They're not necessarily confusing masculinity. They can't really identify anything as truly masculine. It's just some things they think are more feminine than others. Okay, so he got swag, and that's masculine. But she still thinks he's a bit of a dope for being easily provoked in the situations in which he gets sent upriver so she can cheat. And he doesn't know. Can't do anything if he suspects. That's who the hell they are. They can go through a 3 or 4 phase as long as the men are not only easily replaceable, but they're easily duped into disposing of themselves. So she ain't got to just jump off of his ding-a-ling and go jump on to somebody else. It's not even necessary. All she has to do is get into a conflict, and he better be there with the strap and get himself in trouble. That's why it is that when these same broads come and tell someone like you or me that so and so said something inside the store, and then you say, well, we're leaving the store now. Oh, no, we not. That's why they do it. They don't see going to a safe place as protection. They don't think of it like that. Providing for them a safe location in which to nest That's not to them protection at all. That to them is weakness. It's okay if they escape the hood, but you escaping the hood, well, that means you sold out. And that's not masculine to them. But you can never be man enough for them. Never. There's nothing that could be done. And this guy, I don't know who stood him up, and I don't know what her background is. I'm not sure, except that she was raised in the West. I know nothing else. And that's even, understand, I'm pretty sure that this is a skit. But whoever did stand him up, I'm sure, in real life, whoever stood him up, I'm sure they were raised in the West. That's what he knows. That's who he knows. It's not even his fault. And then Mr. Letgo comes along and wants to make it seem like it's his fault what somebody told him. Who would do something like that? Men that have been told that that's what you're supposed to do. I stated long ago, sisters and even white women are doing this to their own men too. They're in the business of tricking their own men into becoming exactly what they don't want. And we just bought into it. We just going along with it. We're just, oh, here, okay. Because we don't know, because a lot of times it's mama telling us this. And when the TV lies and mama's watching the same TV program with us, she don't tell us they lying. And that's why you got men getting in touch with their sensitive sides still to this day. There are more and more men that know and fewer men who don't. But the reason that there are any men that don't is because, well, I mean, who's telling them this? And Mr. Letgo, you got the nerve to make the same mistake Kevin Samuels made before he became the Kevin Samuels that we know. The one we can still remember now. Mr. Samuels used to talk accountability to men. Well, you lacking this, that, and the other. And you know what? He wasn't necessarily lying. I always stated that the problem with Kevin Samuels, before he pivoted, I would always state the issue with him is that even when he tells the truth, he tells it as if men were supposed to automatically know these things after being deceived. Oftentimes, Kevin was the first one, or maybe the second one in their whole entire lives that ever told them these things. Told them the things that they were hearing. No one had told them before. Or maybe one stranger they didn't know had told them before. And Kevin was acting like this was common knowledge. He wasn't singing that tune when he passed away. Because the more he talked, the more obvious it became that they've been lying all along about what they wanted. And even Kendra G recently had to say, you know what, he was right. She'd been agreeing with him in steps, sequentially, step by step already, but trying to act like he was such a problem. And now she's even had to admit that towards the end, he was right. Towards his end, he was right. It's the ladies. White men are dealing with the same thing. Hammerhand recently uploaded a video in which a lady who swings both ways stated that she doesn't mind if a woman says for a date, let's go for a walk in nature, but she does not like when a man does that. She even said, I'm trying to figure out why I'm like that. Well, she was programmed to make things difficult for men. And to not understand why. Sisters have gone through it even more. Brothers are dealing with this, and you got the nerve to point the finger at a man for a skit. Because you're just so ready to believe that another black man is not only a cornball, but that it's his fault. So desperate of you to talk down to other black men that you completely overlooked that this guy does skits all the time and those are his videos. Now, I admit, when it came to this one, I was waiting on the punchline and it never came. But nonetheless, what are the chances this wasn't a skit? But you just had to talk down on somebody. And that's why I said what I said, with no respect. Damn you. That's the problem with a lot of you matriarchal ma'am dingoes and gynocrat goons. You just got to talk down on another black man. I grew up with niggas like you. I went to Morehouse with a few niggas like you. We get in front of Spelman women and they just got to be all super smart and edgy and talking down to other people. Bitches still ain't like y'all. They didn't like any of us in many cases. That wasn't, but at some point, we all just had to realize that that's how they were. They didn't like most men. That doesn't mean something was wrong with the dudes. And you want to sit up and talk like this guy ain't even a man because the worst and second worst women in the world, the wicked witches of the West, stood him up. I don't care if that man was funky as all get out, lived in mama's basement and had a neck beard. Who was going to tell the truth from the beginning? I hope that this message has been a benefit. Thank you for listening to my normal audience. As always, black heart, black mind, blackout, assalamu alaikum, and black, heterosexual, non-select male power because they don't like it. And black patriarchy until extinction of Judgment Day. Thank you again for flying with me on Jet Black Airways, where Jet Black is also a verb. Keep Jet Black on me till the wings and the wheels fall off. As always, gender, justice, forever.